we are going over how to finish a game without having to worry about selling or marketing or player base or the player experience, nothing. Just strictly you and how to finish your game. After we go over the 4 steps, I'm going to show you how to use this to actually speed up your game development process, because I believe that this is more important than learning how to code. I'm a computer science major. I make games for a living. And I'm telling you that it is more important for you to plan out than it is to learn how to code. And that's what most developers fail when making games. And so that's what I want to share with you today. So let's get started with step one, creating a GDD, a game design document. The misconception with this is that a lot of times game developers think that they have to create a 5-page essay to make a good game design document. All you need is two things. One is the core goal of why you're making this game. What's the sole purpose of this game? And number two is the pillars. What are the non negotiables? What are you going to do to make sure you get to this goal? And if you set out to do that, that pillar will help you determine if your game is successful or not. It will help you achieve your goal. A lot of times people build educational games and they say, well, we're just going to gamify their homework and that's it. But it doesn't go anywhere. And that's why a lot of educational games don't make it, because they don't actually achieve or help people achieve their goals. So that's something that you need to measure with the educational games. And it's the same for all kinds of games. If you're trying to make money, are you trying to learn something new? Do you want to learn how to make multiplayer games? You write down what you set out to do so that you can make sure you accomplish what your goals are. And number two, R&D, research and development. So at this point, you know what you want to do. You have your pillars. You know what you set out to do. You have to write down all the things that you need to build in order to make this game. So the best way to do it nowadays is use ChatGPT. Say, hey, ChatGPT, how do I make MMORPG? Because most people want to do that. And you have a list of things to do. When you have that list, you have to think about all the things you need to do to make it happen, and how many of those things do you know how to do, and what things are the hardest, what are the biggest unknowns, and put those first, because you need to make sure that everything that you set out to do is actually achievable by you, because this is one of the things that people get hung up on and they get stuck forever. So if you want your game to take 10 to 20 years, then go ahead and do what you set out to do. But if you want to cut it down to a year or less, then make sure that you're able to do the things you set out to do within a year. Step number 3 is the vertical slice. Once you figure out and you did all those things that you needed to learn how to do, now you need to figure out how to get that so it's demo ready or ready for a trailer. And so you need to think about polish. Okay, so what are sound effects, visual effects, art style? What is the budget that you have to pay someone to do them for you? Because oftentimes this is where there's other skills involved, artistic skills that you might not have, and that you need to figure out how to outsource. And some things, this is where burnout happens, because a lot of developers are not able to outsource it, and so they take it all on themselves, and then they get burnt out because they're doing things that they don't love doing, they can't do, and it just causes a lot of stress, and it's not needed. Games are not meant to be done alone. But if you want to do it alone, then you have to understand there's risks and there's certain things that you're going to have to learn to do, and whether to put your own money or figure out the cost and the budget. If you don't have, let's say you can't outsource, you don't have money, and you don't know how to do it, then you're going to have lower expectations for your polish. You might have to use default assets or different art style that you are able to achieve, or maybe from assets that you're able to download or pay for. Again, it's up to you how far the polish goes based on your skills and your what you have, your budget. Step number 4 is to finish the game. The skills you need, you already learned them. Now you know how far you need to go to polish that game. And you just do that for the whole entire game. Now it's up to you if you want to release early access or wait till your game is fully releasable. So you might sell copies of your game like Zelda and stuff, where it's 80 hours worth of gameplay, and so you need to make sure that you have the full story or the full campaign. Or you can release an early access and have people play test your game as they go and pay an initial fee to help you build the game. And so they're early access people. You can do that. And but you know everything you need to know now. You have the skills, you know how far you need to go, and it's just a matter of how big do you want to make the game before you release. Now, I want to show you how to use this in your development because you think, I already heard all these things, I was already told all these things. It's in your head, you know what you need to do. But how does this apply if I don't know how to code or I don't know anything? Okay, I'm going to show you now. We have this pen and marker. So let's say here's the steps. We have GDD, the game design document. We have the RMD for research and development. You have the vertical slice, the polish, and then you're done. Okay, so let's say you wanna, let's say someone, usually what I see on YouTube, I see that people are done here, and it's usually 10, yeah, it's usually 7 to 10 years. Let's say 7 to 10 years. So people on YouTube I see, and it's like, oh, I made a game in 10 years. This is what you should not do. Okay, my advice, what you should not do is take 10 years. Okay? Do one year, especially if you're learning. If you're a bigger studio, you can take 5 years if you want, because they know what they're doing and they have the budget for it. Um, if you're learning, you don't have 7, 10 years. You you can use the same 10 years and make 10 games. Even if they're crappy, you will learn a lot more than what that person learned in 10 years. So let's start. So let's say you want to finish in 10 years. You probably want to be at 6 years. I mean, at 6 months, you want to be here, and at 3 months, maybe you want to be here. Now you have an idea of what you need to do with these things. You create a game design document and you say, I'm going to spend the next 3 months research and development. Let's say I do want to make an MMO or RPG or something. And then I have, okay, what do I need to do to build an MMO RPG? Well, I need to learn all the RPG mechanics. So I need to have a backend, learn how to do backend, multiplayer. Probably I need self-hosted servers, servers, uh, and then all the game mechanics. And these are, huge systems that then I'll have to like split into other things. But all these things are not going to be done in 3 months. If I don't know any of these, even myself, I built multiplayer games and maybe I could figure it out. But so what I would say is then if you have, let's say you do want to get it out in a month and you want to build an MMO RPG, I would say the first thing you need to learn is, if you haven't built a game first, is figure out what engine you want to use. Let's say I want to learn how to make a simple, and let's say I want to do a space MMORPG like EVE Online. So I'll do a space game in Unity. Okay, a 3D space that's similar to EVE Online. Okay, this I can learn to do, and it's single player. No mission, no nothing. It's just objectives, and you shoot people or whatever you want to have the player do. Okay, now you do that. You're gonna do 3 months. That's super doable. You could do it. Maybe you find a tutorial, but now you know exactly what you're gonna do in those 3 months. Whereas before, if you didn't have this plan, you would probably just start looking at YouTube tutorials and just go off on a tangent for 10 years and come back later and be like, I'm not even close to my goals. Whereas if you did this the first year, you created a game, and this is like assuming you have a 9 to 5 job. So you're doing this on the side, like 2 hours a day for the rest of the year. You could do this with 2 hours a day. And so this is only if you're not doing this full time. So let's say you're doing this. After a year, you then say, okay, now I need the second year. You would do a multiplayer game, and you would do another space game, maybe with different things. Maybe you do PvP. Anyways, and then the third year, then you can say, okay, now I want to figure out how to do the MMO part. But this is so 3 years, you're on your third game. You already have experience under your belt and you already know how to do this, right? So this is the biggest advantage of doing this thing because the vertical here, you would have 3 more months to do the vertical, and in here you would figure out how to do like optimization, sound effects, and see what you like, visual effects, rendering, how to make it look cool for the space, the spaceships, the lighting. I'm trying to make it like the best space game that you have. And so this is like all about polishing. And then you know what things you learn. Like this is your first time learning. You don't know anything. What you're gonna do in here, you're gonna say, "Oh, I know. Like I'm not good at sound effects. I need to make sure I find either an AI asset or library that has cool effects, or find someone that does sound effects, or maybe visual effects or modeling 3D assets. Maybe you find someone that likes to do space assets. Sometimes there's those, or an asset on the Unity asset store. But this is where you spend the next 3 months doing is figuring all that out, and this is doable because there's a lot of things you're gonna learn. In 3 months is okay. And let's say you don't take 3 months. Let's say you take 4 months. So you're at 7 months here. Now you have a year. So let's say you have 4 to 6 months now to say, okay, well, now that I know all these things, I have a game, I have a demo, I have a trailer. Now I need to do. You can decide if it'll take you. If you're really excited about the game, you can do 3 or 4 levels. You can do a little campaign. It's single player, so you decide how much you want to go on it. And let's say you do get burnt out here, and you say, okay, never mind. This game is trash, but I learned all these things. You can you can either decide to go to the multiplayer game, or you can figure out what you did wrong in here and do another go at it. And so you can adjust this depending on what you're learning, and you can pivot. But the biggest thing with this is that you are in control of your time. I can't stress this enough. People spend so much time, and these are 4 simple steps that everyone knows how to do. You heard all these things before. It's just that oftentimes you don't have direction and structure. This gives you that. You are in full control of your time and where you're going. So there's no reason for you to get burnt out, and there's no reason for you to take 10 years. You take as long as you want. You If you want to cut it short, cut it short. You get sick, then you stop here, but then you keep going. Like you're not going to get sick for 5 years. And if you don't like it, you can trash it. Like you can start over through this. That's the whole point is that, but you have to know what you're doing so that you know what you're learning. And these are the biggest thing. These are the biggest learning opportunities. It's just this is mostly because you didn't do these right, then you never know when you're finished. But if you do these first steps right, like this goal, I see a lot of people like when they don't do a game design document or they just kind of wing it, their game goes through this like back and forth and it never finishes. And even when they're published, the game, you don't even know what the heck the game is about because it's all crazy. And that's why studios sometimes take forever because they can't find their game, right? Overwatch used to be a different project, right? All the way to the end, and then they scrambled it and then did something else. Fortnite, but Fortnite was able to pivot, right? They had this whole game about their game design was about like a single player, like in Fortnite is like scrambling for assets to survive for the night. That's what it's called, Fortnite. But then it ended up being this other game, and they pivoted and they were able to reuse the assets and take off, right? But they knew what they were doing, and so you need. This is how you get things done. and you get them done at the time that you want. You want to get things done fast? Then do it fast. Don't work. This is all up to you. You decide when you're done with each step, and you figure out how much workload you're going to take. You're your own boss. So that is why I'm giving this to everyone today, because I feel like there's so many myths or misinformation out there about finishing a game, and all it takes is 4 steps, and you're in charge of those steps. So get out there and finish your games.